good morning. We're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. For those of you I haven't met before, I think I've seen all of you before. My name is Belinda Saldana. I'm Director of Community Outreach at UTSA. And Happy New Year to everyone. Let's go ahead and check in. I think Northside is with us. Denise, are you out there? Okay, great. And you have a few folks with you over at Northside?
Northside, it's Rhonda Fryer by myself so far.
Okay, hey Rhonda, how are you?
Good, thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. My girls went to Marshall, so I know Ms. Fryer well. Also, we're waiting for Harlandale to come on in, and we're going to go ahead and wait a few minutes. I do want to remind you, though, that that the purpose of C Squared for Life, College and Career Ready for Life, is to kind of create a community dialogue so that you all, the College and Career Readiness staff and professionals who work with the students at the high schools, will have some expertise in different areas. Whether it is financial aid, FAFSAs and TAFSAs, the STAR test. Today, the focus is really very focused. We're going to be talking about the Hazelwood Act and talking about the foster youth or former foster youth tuition benefits, which really has taken off the last few years. This has been more of an initiative across our state to help make sure that former foster youth are aware of their benefits. And I know that our specialists today in Hazelwood are going to say the same thing. There really are some military vets and Texas military families who are not very familiar with their benefits. And so we hope that bringing this resource to you and this expertise will allow you to share it with others on your campus. And then also you will know who to contact in our community, or at least where to start to find more answers. So we're really pleased to have you here today. I do want to remind you that we do have, as you came in, you should have received an evaluation. And do want to ask that you please take some time to answer the first question that's on the evaluation even before we get started, because that gives us an idea of what you already know. And so if you would take a few minutes just to fill that out. Of course, hopefully all of you have signed in, and I'll be getting those sign-in sheets and evaluations sent to me later today or this week. And so thank you for doing that. I also want to let you know that we are reading your evaluations, and we're going to change things a little bit today in that we're going to allow some time at the end of this session. We're going to break a little earlier than usual and allow some time for dialogue among the folks that are here today. So one of the things that we've been hearing in your evaluations is we have different districts together. We'd like to talk to each other, and so we're going to allow some time for that. So thank you for those of you that are sharing your opinions and your thoughts. They're very valuable to us as we work together to improve session after session. And I know Harlandale will be joining us shortly, but I think we are going to go ahead and get started so that we can stay on track today. And I do want to introduce our first speaker, and that is Mr. David Longoria, who's our financial aid officer and Hazelwood coordinator over at UTSA, and he will be joined later in his presentation by Laura Crouch, who's also a enrollment services officer at UTSA. And so David, would you come on over? And we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to move this just a little bit to bring you into the session, and we're going to go over to your presentation on the Hazelwood Act. Thank you so much for being here today and bringing your expertise to the session.
Well,
and if you can we have you come over just a little bit, or there you go. So we'll keep you in shot.
Okay. Well, basically, I want to thank you all for having me here, and so like that we can, get many of our veterans, many of our dependents, and even to include our spouses, military spouses, into the Hazelwood exemption program. Because recently, within the past 4 years, it first started off with the dependent children of the veterans, and now this academic semester, the fall semester, it included the spouses, and to include other, programs where everybody can get involved. And today I will just tell you about the basic part. And if you want more detail, of course, just look me up at the UTSA directory, and I'm there, and I'll be able to help you with anything any questions that you may have.
Great. And we'll go ahead and start with the presentation.
Okay, of course, we're calling it Hazelwood 101. Myself, I am from the Office of Financial Aid and Enrollment Services. The Hazelwood program was started basically back for veterans. Within the past 4 years, it started off with a dependence, where the veteran can give the unused hours over to their dependents, one at a time, for up to 150 hours per family. The veteran must have been on active duty for 180 plus days to exclude training. Yes, I do have a few veterans that submitted their DD-214, but then they went into the reserve unit and which have not spent any time on active duty. The only thing I can do is apologize to them, but these are the requirements set by the Texas Veteran Commission and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. They must have received an honorable or a general discharge under honorable conditions. And as of most recently, in the past 2 to 3 years, the veteran is eligible to combine their VA benefits together with the Hazelwood. The only benefit that you cannot use Hazelwood with is Chapter 31. Chapter 31 of the VA benefits is bulk rehab, vocational rehab. Vocational rehab pays 100%. So there is no way that one will pick up the other. Okay. You can transfer up to 150 hours, unused hour, to your dependent spouse, and you can find real basic, not basic information, real good information, collegeforalltexans.com.
And see, it'll get you back in the shot there.
Okay.
All right. There we go. I forget how to use this sometimes after not using it for a while.
Okay, under the legacy program, which just started recently, about four years ago, the dependent, the veteran, for example, myself, I could transfer my unused Hazelwood hours to my kids, and that's the way it started, up to the unused hours of 150 hours. I had to be a Texas resident. I cannot be living in California, claiming California as my home, and my dependent also. They have to be Texas resident as classified by the school. Here at UTSA, I always check to make sure that they are classified as Texas residents. For dependents, they have to meet satisfactory academic progress, and Laura will be telling you a little bit more about that.
Okay, let's see if we can get you the center inside there. And there you are on camera. There we go.
So satisfactory academic progress is you have to be maintaining satisfactory academic progress in order to keep your financial aid. And in order for dependents, they have to maintain satisfactory academic progress in order to keep using the Hazelwood. So if they fall outside of one of those three requirements, then their Hazelwood gets terminated. They can't use it until they are able to meet one of the staff requirements, or they can appeal, and if their appeal gets approved, then they'd be able to receive the benefits again. But what the satisfactory academic progress requirements are is that the student must maintain at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA. And we check this at the end of the spring semester of every year. So in the fall, if they're not meeting this criteria, that's okay, but it's at the end of every spring semester. So they must maintain at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA, that is a C. They also have to complete 67% of their courses. What that means is that we don't want too many students entering and then dropping all their classes. So, for example, if they're in 12 hours in the fall, 12 hours in the spring, they must pass and complete at least 17 of those hours in order to keep receiving financial aid and be within that requirement. A lot of times we'll see students and they'll come in with 66.667%, and that's real sad. We can't do anything about it. We can't round up. It has to be 67% or more. The last requirement is that students must maintain, or they cannot exceed 1.5 times their degree limit. So we don't want a whole bunch of Van Wilder students or 8+ year students. We want people to graduate. So most degrees are 120 hours. If you times that by 1.5, if a student has about 180 college credit hours and they still haven't graduated yet, then they're at risk of losing their financial aid. Okay, and so that's not going to be something that freshmen have to worry about. It's really going to be something that, you know, fifth year juniors and seniors and all that college students will have to worry about. But that's what the dependents will have to worry about too if they're using the Hazelwood, and let's say that they're not receiving any other financial aid besides Hazelwood, then they'll still have to be meeting this financial aid requirement.
Okay, documentation. As of most recently, as of this past fall, the Thanks to Veteran Commission and the coordinating board simplified my job. Before I would get in for a new incoming freshman using the legacy program, I would get in something like 20 pages full of documentation. Now, all I need is roughly about 8. Okay? The beginning, a brand new individual, whether it's whether it's a dependent or the student, dependent of the veteran, all they need to submit is what we consider the HEB and the HED. The Hazelwood exempted veteran, the HED, Hazelwood dependent. Hazelwood exemption dependent. Okay? The new requirement now, any veteran who would discharge after 9/11/2001 need to submit a letter from the Veterans Administration. Office say if they have any other VA benefits available to them. The majority of them are receiving Chapter 33. With Chapter 33, some of it does not cover the full 100%. I have veterans anywhere between 30 to 70%. That is the majority of them of the benefit. What we do at UTSA, whatever Chapter 33 pays out, Hazelwood covers the rest. And of course, we're not charging if a veteran has 50% Chapter 33, 50% Hazelwood, he's taking a full load at 12 hours. Of course, I'm not going to charge him the full 12 hours. I'm only going to charge him whatever Hazelwood charges, which is 6 hours. Okay?
What's Chapter 33?
Chapter 33 is what we consider the post 9/11. Anybody who was discharged after 9/11/2001.
David, you've given us some really good information here. Excuse me, let's just get over just a little bit. You've given us some good information here. Does anyone else at any of the other campuses have any questions at this time? I do want to remind you that I've sent out the PowerPoint that we're looking at now. I sent it out to your district coordinators. So hopefully you guys have it as well. But if not, we can send it out again. But just want to remind you that you all hopefully have this PowerPoint as well. So we're going to go ahead and continue. Just wanted to see if there were any questions out there.
Okay, continuing on. The biggest and most important document that I need is what we consider the DD-214. That is the discharge paper of the veteran. Okay? They have copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason why I need copy either 2 or 4 is because they have the type of discharge that veteran received. 1, 3, and 5 don't have it. Okay, and just to confirm that, I even went through my copy, the 1, 3, and 5. It's not on there. Okay, but I have copy 2 and 4, and my discharge is on there. So that's why it's very important for either copy 2 or 4, because I need to see that discharge. I have two individuals since I've had this program for the past 4 years that don't have anything on there, and all they have to do is just show me proof that they were honorably or generally discharged with honor under honorable conditions. Hazelwood history. This document I need to know just to ensure that we are giving that student, that veteran, that spouse, the correct amount of hours under the Hazelwood program. Okay, I do have veterans who have used up to 125, and on the application themselves, they say never used it before, but when I ask for that documentation, it showed me they have used 125 hours, so I'm sorry to say that dependent only had 45 hours to use. The other thing that brand new to the application this fall is the.
It's a little bit here in the center, I'm sorry.
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
Okay. The Texas Veteran Commission and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is requesting, is telling us that there is a website that we must confirm that you are not in default of any loans guaranteed by the state of Texas. These loans can be the Be On Time loan, the college access loan, for an example. If the veteran and or the dependent is on default, they will have to clear that up before I can approve and process their Hazelwood exemption. Okay, we contact office. You're welcome to call us at any time at the number. The young ladies and gentlemen that we have answering our phone are excellent about the information that I just gave you and even more from there. And from now, I'll turn it over to Laura so she can continue.
Well, this is just the general financial aid office information. On the next slide, we're going to have our information, so you can contact us. And again, David, you'd want to contact if you have any specific Hazelwood questions, and you can contact me if you would like to schedule any outreach events, or if you have a FAFSA workshop coming up, then we would love to go. If it's any of the FAFSA Saturdays and if you're Café College, you already have the list, so you don't have to invite us to that because we've already been invited. But if you're having like a FAFSA night, like on a Wednesday night or something like that, and you want UTSA to come out and help you out, you can always give me a call.
Thank you. I do want to stress something that David mentioned earlier, and that is that the rules and guidelines for Hazelwood are the same across the state, but sometimes, I guess, depending on where a student goes at college or university, they may have their own interpretation. And so you always want to connect your students with whoever the Hazelwood specialist is at the campus they're going to. But the rules and regs are across the same. They're very general. Are there any questions at any of the campuses? Any questions here that we may have for our?
I was looking through this and I'm trying to find it. This is for undergraduate, correct?
Anybody.
Anybody.
And for the dependents, as long as they have not reached their 26th birthday.
So it's not spouses, because I was looking in here about spouses.
Spouses, the only way they can receive it is the veteran, deceased, while on active duty,
Or disabled.
or 100% unemployable, as it is right now. But it means disabled, yes.
So it is not limited to undergraduate?
No, ma'am.
But the disability, is it the disability from the VA or the disability from Social Security? Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, that is from the VA letter. It has to be from the veteran.
Because you know how the VA gives you percentages of disability, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. So would it have to be 100% from the VA?
Yes, 100% from the VA. I've had individuals submit 20% from the VA and 80% and 100% from Social Security. I'm sorry, it had to be from the Veteran Administration because of due to service-related injuries or illnesses at a state level. And that's why it had to be the letter from the VA stating so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions at any of the other campuses? Okay. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Sharonda Tillman, who is a youth specialist with the Department of Family and Protective Services.
Correct.
And she's going to talk to us about the former foster youth tuition benefit. Thank you for being here.
And thank you all for having me as well. As you know, I work with Child Protective Services, and I primarily work with our young adults who are transitioning out of foster care. So basically, who are turning 18 or 21 of age and now they're aging out. And for these young adults, our main goal is to help them achieve self-sufficiency. And one way for them to sort out that independence is to continue their education. So thus, we have the tuition waiver, the former foster care tuition waiver. Now, with this particular waiver, just to give a little history on it, it's not in every state. We actually are one of the few states that actually have a tuition waiver. So first off, for a young adult to qualify for the tuition waiver, they do have to be in the conservatorship of Child Protective Services at the time that they graduate and or when they turn 18. Now, in order for them also to access this particular benefit, they will have to have been in care at 14 years old or older, and then emancipate out at 18 or so. And they would have to also have graduated college. Now, the one thing about this particular waiver is it doesn't have very many stipulations on it in that once they take a class and lock it in, that they can continue to use this benefit for life.
I want to stop you there for just a moment because that I think is really key to students using this benefit. So I'm going to repeat that again. Once a student uses this benefit, okay, once they use this benefit, they enroll in college for a orientation class, a PE class, okay, that has locked that benefit in for life through a doctoral degree. Okay? Do you understand how important it is to get this information to the students? I hear some stirring at the other campuses. Well, could you repeat that? Were there some questions? If a student, I'll repeat this, if the student uses the benefit, then they have locked that benefit, being able to use that benefit in through an associate's, through a bachelor's, through a master's, through a doctoral degree. If they do not use it, they lose it.
And when we say they don't use it, there's a time frame for them to take a class, and times that have been taken and passed it. And right now, as it stands, just take the class. So enrollment, just to start a transcript with a higher education. And like she said, you can take a PE class, a music class, a general orientation class, just to get started. Now, originally it was age 21. You have until 21 to lock that in. And we've been successful in pushing that back until age 23. And we're also still looking at even pushing it back further to age 25, just to give those young adults who are in transition time to just take that one class and get this benefit locked in.
Did you have a question?
Yeah,
Rita?
go back and what's the original eligibility for this person, for this person?
For this young adult?
For this young adult, because what you're saying is they're gonna be eligible at a certain point, and then they have a window all the way up until 25, correct? Okay, so what's the first eligibility?
The first eligibility is they have to be in conservatorship with Child Protective Services when they are 14 years or older.
Not, what's it called, when they're at PJ's, that's not the same one, when they're at,
St. PJ's is
Yeah.
one of our child placing agencies, so that is a placement
So that is
option.
placement.
So that is a foster care placement option. I believe they also do private care.
Okay.
So that's why it has to be Child Protective Services conservatorship.
Got it.
Many of the placements don't just service Child Protective Services. They may service JPO, youth, or private placement. But they have to be in conservatorship of Child Protective Services at 14 or older.
Okay.
Then they will have to have emancipated out of the foster care system at least until the 18th birthday, and we would like for them to have graduated. And then that's when they are eligible to, here's this piece of paper, now it's up to you to take it to the campus and lock it in for life. So you can potentially have youth out there with this piece of paper, but it will not be effective at the college campus when they go to look and if they are over that age limit and they've never used it before.
And I'm going to add to that for just a moment, because one of the other things that you mentioned, Sharonda, that's really key that y'all need to know is that a few years ago, when a student was taking this piece of paper to the college campus, no one had a clue what they were talking about. What is this? We don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean free tuition? At the colleges and universities. Now, what has changed is that, at least in San Antonio, and I know this is happening across the state, and Laura and UTSA Financial Aid have been a big part of this, is that there are now liaisons across the city at different colleges and universities that are working specifically with former foster youth and are aware of the way the benefits work, even about coordinating housing benefits and all types of things. So you all need to know that, UTSA, SAC, different colleges and universities across the city and even across the state have key folks that you can connect that person to, and you know who these people are.
Correct. Now, one of the major things, though, is that this tuition waiver, we also have to let our youth know it is only good at state-supported schools. So as long as you want to go to, like, for instance, here, if you want to go to UTSA, Texas State, any of the Alamo colleges, they're good to go. It will waive that tuition. Now, it waives tuition and fees. So that's just the when you get a breakdown, it has all these little fees. That all is waived. However, it doesn't cover parking permits. It doesn't cover school books. So that's why it acts to complement the financial aid that they are able to get from the government. That's why youth is able to access both simultaneously, because it's different pots of money. And in actuality, I don't think there's even any money that's exchanged with the tuition waiver. It's a zeroing out of the balance, and that's why they're able to do so. Moreover, with the tuition waiver, we really stress that they be cautious of technical schools, because technical schools sometimes will tell our youth that, oh yeah, yeah, we accept that, and after you sign on the dotted line, they come back and say, oh no, 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 we don't accept that. And as illegal, I mean, they're adults now, and by signing on the dotted line, they are, liable for that debt, whether they continue on with that program or not. So we really stress that sitting down with the youth, finding out what type of career path they want to take. If one of our universities or our junior colleges offer a technical degree or a certification, that's maybe one way that they want to go, route that they want to take, that's not going to get them into a debt.
So if a counselor is unsure about whether a school, is
Correct.
participating or is a right fit for the student to use their benefits, they can contact you.
Contact us. Now, the tuition waivers are, the eligibility are determined by state power. So Child Protective Services, we have preparation for adult living workers, and they go and research and make sure they meet that eligibility that I spoke of earlier. And then they present them with the form. They can either contact CPS and get in contact with a PAL coordinator, or they can go through our transitional centers. Now, we have a center that's operated through a contractor where it's a one-stop shop where youth can come in and get all their employment, educational, and transitional benefit needs met. And one thing that we really do work for these young adults to get them in a place of where they can be self-sufficient, because we have additional benefits that these youth are eligible for that complement one another. So for instance, I already spoke of where a youth can access this tuition waiver. A youth can also access the FAFSA financial aid money from the government. And then we also have what's called education and training vouchers, ETVs. That's additional monies that a young adult can access, that's going to help pay some of the costs that the tuition waiver or their financial aid may not cover. And even with all these benefits, you do see where it's difficult to get our young adults engaged. I mean, the percentage shows that we have like 2-3% of youth who are former foster youth that graduate.
I'm going to stop you there for just a second, because I need y'all to hear that percentage one more time. Imagine having someone say you don't have to worry about paying for your college from associates all the way through a doctoral. Imagine if that was you, and then realizing that 2% or less of former foster youth actually get a college degree. That is amazing. And so we really need to do a better job as a community of helping them to
Correct.
understand that there is a benefit that they can use.
Correct. And when I talk with young adults, I really try to give them the big overview. I mean, when you break it down, I'm trying to keep these numbers in perspective. I want to say FAFSA's financial aid is about like 5,500 a year going full time, roughly. The Pell Grant. All right. So that's just the Pell Grant alone. That doesn't include any scholarships or grant monies that a young adult could access in addition to that. And then we have the education training vouchers, which will give them the potential of earning up to 5,000 a year. And then the tuition waiver, which is going to waive the big bulk of the tuition. So honestly, the youth is only left with housing choices of where they're going to live, whether it's going to be out on campus or off campus, the books, and the parking permit. And the bacterial meningitis now. Yes, yes. So in essence, once they walk away from taking care of all, they're actually sitting on a nice pot of money that can help pay for them to be able to have living expenses and food. And that's really where the most of our youth who are beneficial after leaving foster care and don't fall into a lot of the negative statistics are those who pursue higher education. And that's why we really, really, truly focus on getting the youth involved in school.
Can I focus there for just a moment, Shonda, because you mentioned living and housing, and I think that from the research that I've read, that one of the big issues, and those of you counselors that have worked with former foster youth know that one of the big issues that former foster youth face, if they are in a situation that might not be ideal, is that when they do emancipate or turn 18 and they do have to leave their foster home, housing is a really big issue for many of these youth. Where am I going to live? How am I going to get into college if I don't have a place to live? And so some colleges and universities, like UTSA, are working with former foster youth and coordinating these ETV benefits. And sometimes housing folks will actually wait for these benefits to come in and help students get a place to live. So there are ways around that. And if you could help the students to know that if they are in a situation where they don't have housing, that colleges and universities, many of them have been willing to work with these students during that transition time between them being 18 and the time that school starts.
Now, what I will say, one of the biggest supports that a high school counselor can provide a youth who is in foster care, who's about to age out, is really that intangible support, that encouragement. Because for a lot of our youth who have bounced from school to school to school, who have struggled to even graduate high school, to combine all the different credits and so forth, when they get to that college level, it becomes extremely difficult because of they get discouraged because of the remedial courses that they have to take, being on campuses and not having that one-on-one tutoring and so forth, and that's why I think you see a lot of that, only 2 to 3% that's graduate, because they become overwhelmed. And especially that component of, okay, do I go to school and access this money, or do I worry about figuring out how I'm going to get a job and have to pay for a roof over my head because I don't have a place to stay? And that is the constant battle that you will see with the youth who is aging out, who doesn't have family support to help get them encouraged through the process of going to college. And so that's what I see a lot of you all being able to do is, start that initial conversation, encourage that they can go to school regardless of whatever their scores may be here or which direction they want to go. There is a right fit for everyone who wants to pursue higher education, and it's just a matter of encouraging our young adults all that much more, because they're not getting that from a family support system.
Are there any questions at this point?
Is a child eligible for these benefits who has been in foster care and then is adopted?
Yes, it depends. It's tricky. There's a lot of if this then that. A lot of the times what I always say is if someone's going to get a.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if everyone heard her question, so can we repeat the question just for a moment? I'm going to put it back on you. So the question was,
You want me to repeat it? The question is if a child who was once in foster care and then has been adopted, does that child qualify for these benefits?
And a lot of that just depends on, the one thing I say is get it in the adoption decree. If you have it in there stating that they are entitled to that tuition waiver, then it more 100% you're good to go. Otherwise, there are some things where it just depends on the way the legislative is written. Like if they were after this age and if they did this and that, but those who have been adopted are still eligible for the tuition waiver. I'm not a huge expertise on the adoption side, like our PAL workers would be, and they would be able to look up each individual case and tell you, but there are many instances for someone who has been adopted still can't access that tuition waiver. And again, once they lock it in, it's good for life. And I'm saying, and it's not just, to go straight through from, associates, masters, associate bachelor's, master's, doctorates. They can go back to school after, say, they went and got a degree in marketing and decides, you know what, I want to go and get a degree in communications. They can go back and start all over. It is good for life. And that is just one of the huge benefits for our young adults. And we really stress that, think about how many times youth or students change their mind on what degree area they want to go in while they're going to school. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to, accredit yourself multiple times. So it's a wonderful way of getting a youth set up for success and continued success throughout their livelihood.
But they gotta take that
But
first
they
class to
gotta
lock
get
it
that
in.
first
Okay,
class.
that's what I wanna ask about that first class. Let's say that the first class is a remediation class. Does that count?
As long as it's a college class, because it starts that college transcript. So it doesn't have to be a college class that's going towards your degree plan.
Okay.
Just a
So
college
the remediation
class.
courses are counted as college classes.
College class.
Okay.
Dual credit. I'm not 100% sure on that. As long as it's going, I know as long as it's going through there and it's starting that transcript, you're good. But I can check on that
Yeah,
and let
can
you
we
know for
find
sure
out, and
about
then we
dual
can-
Yeah,
credit.
because dual credit and AP, some colleges will take that AP credit as a college credit. You never know.
We'll have to double check on
Yeah.
that dual credit and see if that, because it does appear on a transcript, but,
Transcript.
so that we'll find out and we'll email, okay? So you'll get back to us on that one.
I will.
Any other questions?
Maybe from the other sites.
Okay, at this time then I want to go ahead and open it up to the other sites, but I think that we may, I don't know if we lost a signal here because we're not able to see the other sites. Can you still hear us, Denise, Rhonda?
Yes, we see you and hear you.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to the room, and I know that you all had mentioned that, and I say you all, those of you that have filled out forms before evaluations, you had mentioned that this was a good opportunity to talk and dialogue. I do want to mention also that Student Aid Saturdays are coming up. We sent out the schedule for Student Aid Saturdays, and hopefully you all received them, but those are also going to be on Café College website, and they're going to be at various locations. I know Laura and UTSA are going to be taking part in it. Did all of you receive the schedule?
Yes, Northside did.
Okay, great. Glad you got those. And please encourage your students to come out to that. I want to remind you also that I sent out as well the schedule for the next UTSA Parent Student Education Workshop Series. What we talked about today, we're going to be talking about on Saturday. We're also going to include the topic of scholarships. We're going to have our Mobile Go Center out. The UTSA P20 Mobile Go Center will be out with lots of G4 students staffing that, and our UTSA Financial Aid, Laura, will be out there. And so a great opportunity for students to come out from 9 to 10:30 with their parents and fill out their FAFSA. So that's this Saturday at the UTSA downtown campus from 9 to 10:30. So let's go ahead and open it up for just a moment. Are there any topics, you all are getting ready to fill out financial aid forms at your campuses? We have a financial aid expert in the room here. Laura, you want to come up? And if you have any questions for Sharonda Tillman, Laura Crouch, or other specialists here, David, then please let us know. Or if you want to talk about some other issues that are happening across your campus, please also let us know. We're going to open up the floor for some dialogue time, some community conversation.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we joined you late, and so we didn't get the information on the contact for students who are looking for those tuition waivers because they had been in the foster care system. And I know she had mentioned, we joined you when she just mentioned that there was a one-stop center where they get the educational, employment, and the other assistant resources. Do you have contact information to share?
Yes, Sharonda Tillman with the Department of Family and Protective Services. She's going to give you maybe her.
I'll give you my contact number. I'm going to give you two numbers. You can either contact myself or other state PAL workers. My office line is 210-431-5640.
You repeat that one.
210-431-5640. You can also reach our contractor for the one-stop transitional center. Our contractor is Baptist Child and Family Services. Their number is 210-733-7932. And that's a drop-in center that any foster youth can come to. And we really try to get them registered prior to them aging out.
So they have to register prior to aging out, because we joined you at the end. So
they don't have to register. We just like to get paperwork started on them as a heads up to the caseman, because they're case managed there at that transition center. That way someone they'll have an assigned person to them. So whenever they feel like dropping in, they'll already have someone assigned to work with them.
If a student was awarded a state, let's say in middle school and in high school, they're 18, they're already independent. For FAFSA, there's a question that states, are you awarded the state? Does that imply for that current year or the previous years? How does that go?
As previous years, and they do need to check that off. That is what allows them to go independent, so that we know we don't have to ask for parent information and that we're only counting their information.
And the schools
I'm sorry, so they say yes or they say no to
they
that
say
question?
Yes. They say yes.
I thought it's not one of my students, but another student of mine showed me his FAFSA, and he was explaining to me a situation. Because he's 18, the financial aid counselor who did his FAFSA indicated no, and then there was another question that stated, will you be filing for independent status? And she advised him that that would be a yes.
No, if you've been in foster care, then you need to check off where you are awarded of the court.
And all the school's going to request is that you can provide that documentation. And so as long as they're answering yes to that question and they have that documentation, then
and the documentation being that tuition waiver letters, then they know that all that is in alignment with one another.
Any other questions about this topic or anything else that you guys are facing out there as far as, or you want to speak with other folks, see if folks at SAISD are having similar issues?
I'd just like to make a comment. I'd
Yes.
like to thank you for sharing the information and becoming more open with it. It helps us break the walls and the myth that college is not accessible to anyone who wants to attend. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I think it's a really great thing. We're really trying to do promote the benefits and really help make everyone aware so that we can get that 2% up to 25 or really increase 100%.
And I will say this, I'm in a testament of that it can be done, because not only am I myself a former foster care youth, I'm also a UTSA grad. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And if, when our youth are given the right opportunities and connected with the right resources and supported in that, it can be done. And that's what help, and that's really what we're looking at. Want to increase that 2%.
And that was one of the things that I wanted to make you all aware of as well. UTSA, and I know that other folks are at other schools maybe doing similar things, but we actually have a center now at UTSA through our Capri Center. Dr. Harriet Rommel is heading this up and got a grant for this. And it is a place where anyone, whether they're coming to UTSA or not, can come and get resources along with the folks over at BCFS. But it's a resource that any student can come and use. And I think the great thing about when students come together is that they also become a community among themselves. We have some really great leaders at UTSA who are former foster youth that are really helping other students. And I know on Saturday, if any of your students come to our presentation on Saturday, we're going to have a gentleman come and speak who also is former foster youth, who use a tuition benefit, is finishing a master's degree, and will speak with parents and students about how he used the benefit. And I think that there's no greater testament than a student who's been successful speaking to other students and foster parents and just helping them know that it can be done. I know that one of our own folks as well, Christopher Goldsberry on our campus, who's done a really great job of doing outreach in our community for financial aid and foster youth, is also going to be starting a first-year freshman seminar program where he is bringing a community of we say independent students, we'll call them independent students, together in a freshman seminar community. So again, there's that opportunity to become a family, a community, if you will, because that is one of the things that all students, all freshman students need is support, and one of the things that former foster youth don't have enough of. That's encouragement and support. So anything you can do to help that'd be great.
And also that center, it is located at the downtown campus, and it's called the Capri Access Center. And that's where foster youth or homeless youth, unaccompanied youth, you can send them there to get resources. And like we said, it's not just UTSA or future UTSA students. It could be for Alamo College students or a student at your high school right now. You can send them there and they'll help out. And we do know a lot of other campuses like Sam Houston has a really great foster youth program, and so we can get in contact with them and let them know, we have a student coming your way, like, can you make sure that you contact them? So we do know a lot of other contacts other than, just UTSA, and it'll be around the state of Texas. So definitely get in contact with BCFS or the Capri. CAPRI. It stands for the Child Adolescent Policy and Research Institute, but it's Capri. You just type it in our little UTSA Google pop-up.
And it's really important that you connect the student, the former foster youth, with that liaison on campus. Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to be running all over campus. But if you can send them to that one person who knows and can be the liaison for them, that's going to be a tremendous help to them. Let me ask you all the question as well. How are the financial aid applications coming along? Are you all having students fill out forms already? Are you all helping them in your centers? How are those coming along? I know there's a big initiative across the city this spring to really do a really good job of getting information out. Do you want to say anything about that?
The only thing that I would like to mention.
And let me just introduce Daryl Balderrama, who's in the classroom here. And I don't know if you want to come on up, Daryl. Daryl is my colleague in the Office of P20 Initiatives and does some really great work with our come on up here, with our G4 students. And he's going to be participating in a lot of the events that are going on across the city. You want to tell them some of those things?
The only thing that I wanted to mention to everybody is, of course, next Saturday we're going to be starting the Student Aid Saturdays with the partnerships in San Antonio, Generation Texas, P20 initiatives. But not only is it important to get that information out to your students and your communities, but they're also really looking for additional volunteers to help with intake, students completing their FAFSAs. So if any of you know of maybe some parent liaisons or yourselves are interested in volunteering, they're going to be working on this initiative every Saturday beginning January 28th, concurrently through March the 17th. So you can go to the Café College website to get more information, And as of yesterday, I know that there were still quite a few slots for volunteers. So if you are interested, please look into that. That is also part of the mayor's Serve SA initiative. So please, we really do encourage you to help assist us with that. That's pretty much all that I wanted to mention. And make sure that students, you get that information out to students, because that's really, really, really important. We don't want them to miss out on that opportunity. And if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Castro has mentioned that students who do complete their FAFSAs, that 90% of students that complete their FAFSAs, and hopefully I don't misspeak, do transition over to college. So that's really, really important statistic to keep in mind. And we do hope that you get that information out. And if you are able, that you come out and help us each Saturday, or one Saturday.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that, Gerald, for just a second, because that statistic you mentioned, whether it's 90% or 92%, that is one of the things that really spurred this whole initiative, is because they were looking at what one thing can really encourage students to go on to higher ed, and they looked at the statistic for students that are filling out financial aid forms and the college, them actually going to college correlation, and it was extremely high. And so that is one of the things that spurred the Student Aid Saturdays. But the other thing I want to mention is you asked folks to volunteer. Now, you might not be a financial aid expert like Laura. I'm not an expert, but I did sign up. I know you've signed up to volunteer. You'll be there at many of the sites. But I signed up to be a greeter. I'm just going to be welcoming people. And so if you want to do that in your community and see how many of your students are coming in to fill out their financial aid apps, or encourage them, say, we're going to give a certain prize at our school for the senior class, or the senior classroom that has the most students come out. Do whatever you can do, because that's a really big correlation between students going to college, whatever college it is, and filling out the application.
There's also a College Go Sunday on February the 12th at Café College and at Harlandale High School.
Yes.
From 2 to 4.
Yes, and that's actually on a Sunday.
Yes. One other thing, just to add on to what Belinda said, for those of you that want more information, Café College is going to be offering a training next Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on basic general information on filling out FAFSAs. So if you are interested in helping or assisting, that's a great free training that you're able to attend, get more information, and you can sign up and help that way. They're also going to be adding an additional component to that. From 4 to 5, they're going to be giving a training on the TAFSA. So that's the state financial aid form that many folks don't know about. So that may be another opportunity for you to get more information. And this is next Wednesday from 4 to 5, and then from 6 to 7 is the general financial aid.
Yeah, and there's also, we received from Harlandale High School, Advice Texas, information on online training through the College Go Sunday, and I can email it to somebody. We got it from Jenna Price, who's our, at Harlandale High School, the Advice Texas representative. It's online training from, I believe, 1:30 to 2:30 next Wednesday as well, through, I think, it's Texas A&M.
If you could send it to me, and then I can share it with the other liaisons if they haven't gotten it yet. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. All right. If there's no questions, then we'll go ahead and turn it over to our evaluation. We'll complete our evaluations. Anybody else want to share anything? Any other things that are happening in your community or across the city that you want to share regarding college and career readiness? Well, thank you all so much for being with us, and a really great opportunity to be with you. We did talk about the TASFA and FAFSAs last time, so I know you guys are experts. Now you're experts on Hazelwood and former foster youth benefits, or you know who to call, right? So thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and complete these, turn these in at your sites, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.